When you're at a point in life where, say, you're much older, like in your 50s, and you just got a new job, yet you have very little in your retirement savings, that's a big red flag. Because in this day and age, uh, starting like an entry level job and then having little retirement in your 50s really is dangerous to think about because you're getting into that point where in a decade or two you're going to get older and you may need more attention, like health wise and so forth. And if you don't have adequate retirement savings and you need like more medical needs and so forth, that's going to add up. Or simply put, if you get to a point where you can no longer work physically, then you're in a much worse situation than you think you may be. And this is alarming to say the least because when I read stories like that, it really troubles me. And so I wanted to kind of break down this unfortunate reality that I think older people are facing today and why I think it's a wake up call for younger generations to really not go down this direction because it is a dangerous path to go on and something that you want to avoid at all costs. So I came across some posts online and uh, there was a question from a man in his 50s. Uh, he asked on this platform I'm on, and he's in his 50s. He had just gotten a job, and he's got very little saved for retirement. And he wanted to ask if it's too late for him to maybe retire at a reasonable age. Because if he's in his 50s now, he's got a little over a decade until he's into that retirement group. And if he doesn't have enough saved in the next 10 years, then he's going to be out of luck and he's going to have a lot of financial difficulties ahead. And I will say that the honest answer to that, it's not too late, but it's going to be very difficult if he just follows the traditional path. And he's going to have a difficult time as he gets into his elderly years if he doesn't have enough money saved up. So, but when I read that post, I mean, having very little to no retirement and savings in his 50s it's unfortunate because what he is going to have to go through is he may have to delay retirement and he may have to live off you know welfare programs, maybe living off social security, or social security will be one of his primary methods of income. And if you see where we're at right now with you know so-called government entitlements with social security and Medicare, they're going to be on the chopping blocks. And I believe that probably within the next decade, those programs may not be in existence because uh, those programs are in such big financial trouble. It's I don't know what to call it. It's not not something to take light of, and it is serious because I think most people don't really understand how much trouble Medicare and Social Security are in today because the money will run out. And I'm afraid there's going to come a time where the chickens will come home to roost, and you know, the politicians, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to come out and tell the truth about these programs. And it ain't going to be pretty, and it's not going to be something that people want to hear. But you want to know what the dirty truth is? That they're going to have to say stuff like, "We lied to you, and we have no choice but to cut these programs, and we might have to get rid of them altogether." I know that's pretty harsh to say, and I know it's not something that people want to hear, but that may have to happen at one point, and it's going to be hard to swallow, but that's what I feel where these programs are heading. And that's how I view it. and that's what I'm going to say. And hey, I have no intention of being a politician, so I'm just going to say like it is, and I could get hate for it, or I could get death threats over it, but that is the nature of the situation. But anyway, going back to my point, this is why relying on Social Security and Medicare is just going to do you no good. And you are putting yourself in a much worse situation when you are in that dependency mode, or where you have to rely on external sources to take care of yourself. And so, my honest take is that the traditional retirement path is tough at this stage. And especially if you're getting close to retirement age and you're strapped on money or you feel like you're behind, then it's going to be pretty difficult. But there are still options, and for those who are still young in their 20s and 30s, this should serve as a wake-up call because it's definitely one that you don't want to be finding yourself into down the road, and it could be one that you could regret as well. So you can listen to my story now and my takes, so that way you can take action to put yourself in a much better situation by the time you hit your 50s and 60s, and you could be well much better off financially, where you won't have to rely on government entitlements that may not be around by then. So, and here's the problem. You know, you can be very serious about saving for retirement in your 50s if you have very little, but it does make traditional retirement much more difficult. And why it's always advised that you start early and you start young before it's too late. You need compound interest. It needs time to work. And the more that you put it off, the harder it gets. And it becomes more difficult financially, as you get older, and say your personal and medical needs may go up a lot and you're going to need a lot of attention and so forth. It all depends, but especially when you get into your elderly years, your medical needs might become more apparent. And trust me, uh, I have three grandparents right now, all in their 90s as of mid 2026, and they're all healthy, but to a certain extent, uh, both of my grandmothers do need some medical attention, and it does cost a lot of money. And so, if you are fortunate enough to live into your 80s, into your 90s, and you need the medical attention and you need assistance, then you'll be able to uh, do that with confidence if you are financially free and you have a lot of financial security and you have a lot of retirement savings on hand and so forth. Most people in this situation will struggle to retire comfortably in their 60s, uh, where they may have to rely only on a 401k and Social Security. And so I bring this up because I think there needs to be a quick shift in how we view, finances or money altogether. So the shift should go from saving to building cash flow. Now, there's a difference between the two. Saving, you can save all you want, save all the money, and, hopefully you could save it for a day where you need it. But just saving altogether is not going to be enough for you to keep yourself afloat. What you have to do is you have to build cash flow, cash flow that you can rely on, and that where on a week by week basis you can keep generating income when you really need it the most. And if you're at a stage in life where you're much younger, like myself, as I get close to turning 35, you want to aggressively increase your income through doing side hustles, through building your skills, or doing stuff like investing and trading. And what you want to do, especially early on, is to live, if not at your means, but well below your means, and invest the difference consistently. Take the time to focus on building assets that generate not just monthly income, but you can build reliable weekly income instead of just hoping that your nest egg, whether that's a 401k or relying on Social Security, where it grows big enough. So, but the key takeaway is that rather than just relying on saving, you need to be building cash flow, if not generated on a monthly basis, but you can actually create weekly cash flow where you can rely on it and when you need it the most, especially as you get older. If you have reliable, consistent cash flow coming in and where it's going to help you take care of your own needs and when you need it the most, that's what is going to keep you staying afloat at the top. And that's going to help you stay ahead of the rising cost of living and with inflation. Heck, who the hell knows what inflation is going to be like in 5 to 10 years? And I can't predict what's going to happen, but I don't know what this next decade, the 2030s, will hold. But all I can say is that in the next 10 years, it's just going to get much worse. I'm just going to state it like that because I'm, you know, I consider myself a pragmatic realist, so I have to be pessimistic and think that you have to keep your expectations low and think that things are not going to get better because they're not. Things are going to have to get far much worse before it gets better. And I feel like the world is going to have to go through some real difficult times in the next 10 to 15 years before we really start to see improvements in in like developments in life and to advancing the cause of humanity and so forth. It's not something that people want to hear, but we're going to have to go through the difficult times ahead and say, hey, we have to make the tough choices now so that way we can make things better and that way we can continue to advance the cause of humanity and you know the human race altogether. So, but that's what I wanted to put out there. And I know for gentlemen like the that 50-year-old guy who is just starting out and has little to no retirement savings, you really have to strap it down and really focus because for someone at his age, it doesn't look good. And that's why that if you're a young person, which my target is younger people, is to really start early on this. Because the earlier that you start, I mean, the better off you're going to be building yourself long-term financial security. So, so three takeaways from this video. Number one, that it's never too late to improve your situation. And the strategy, it has to change. So if you're a 20 something or a 30 something or even a 40 something year old person, you know, now is the time to really take action and really focus on uh, building assets that generate income. Work on your skill set so that way you can go from that saving mindset to more of a build cash flow mindset where you have regular cash flow coming in every single week. Number two, time is no longer on your side, especially as you get older. Now, the younger you are, then time is your biggest advantage. But if you get older and time is narrowing down on you, you have to be much more aggressive with your income and investing. But if you're someone young like myself, time is your best friend, and it is your big advantage to preparing for your, uh, retirement years or your elderly years ahead. Now is the time to get ready for that, so that way in 30 to 40 years, when you may need that income, you will be financially equipped and you will be confident in tackling those issues. And then number three, stop relying on just saving. Like I said, focus on building cash flow now and multiple income streams. And if you do that, especially if you're young, you're going to be far much ahead of your peers, and you will put yourself in a much better situation where if we get to a point where things get bad enough where there is no such thing as Social Security or Medicare, or if things fall apart, then you'll still be okay, and you won't have to rely on that stuff. So, I mean, at that point, who gives a damn about these entitlements, because they're going to be going away in the next decade or so. So I know my opinions may not be well received, and it may not populate or may not be popular with a lot of people, but this is me telling the truth, because the government and the politicians are not going to say it right now. They're not going to tell the truth until we get to like a real bad crisis situation. But until then, now's the time to really start building on it, and you really have to take charge of your financial future ahead, because the decisions that you make today will only equip you to put yourself in a much better situation, especially when times get really tough. And when they do get better, you're going to be ready no matter what happens. So that's all what I got today for today. So if you're interested in learning more about how to go about this direction, and you know especially if you're young, really take the time to start thinking about this seriously. And if you want to build a better future, uh, and learn better ways to build wealth outside of traditional saving, then be sure to check out my latest ebook called Pennyful versus Cash Flow, the best alternatives to savings. And in this ebook, I go over the better alternatives to, uh, just basically traditional savings or retirement savings. And one of those alternatives happens to be through options trading. Now, the trading that I do is far much safer than what you may think. And if you want to learn more about what I actually do, uh, be sure to check out the ebook by signing up through the link in the video description. Once you get to that link, you will have the opportunity to opt into my email list, and then shortly afterwards, you will get a free copy of my ebook. So, but that's all I got for today's video. Um, if you have any questions or you have any thoughts about it, then let me know. Uh, are you someone at a stage in your life where you're kind of concerned about retirement? If you're still young and you want to get started on the right path, uh, what are some things that you are going to start taking action on today? What will you do uh, today so that way you don't end up like the 50-year-old guy who is on a late start and looks like he could have a hard time? Feel free to hit up some of your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to reading them, and we can start a little dialogue. But that's all I got. Be sure to check out my ebook in the description below. You'd also scan the QR code, which will pop up momentarily. And that's all I got for now. So until next time, peace.